October 14, 2023, 4:17 a.m., Lake Yasi Basin, northern Tanzania. A Hadza hunter opens his eyes inside his grass hut and feels the impossible. A living rope of muscle thicker than his thigh, cold as river stone, cinched 3 times around his ribs. 160 pounds of constrictor, except no python on earth grows 22 feet long and weighs as much as a lion. What he did in the next 30 seconds was captured on a motion-triggered wildlife camera, and it forced the Tanzanian Wildlife Division to classify an entire valley as a no-go zone. This is the footage they tried to bury. Long before the cameras arrived, the Hadza had a name for it. Indad, the thing that walks on its belly but stands taller than a giraffe when it chooses. For 10,000 years, their oral maps marked the Yaida Valley as a place to skirt after dusk. Children learned the boundary before they learned to walk. Elders spoke of nights when the stars themselves seemed to dim, as if the sky feared looking down. Modern anthropologists filed the stories under cultural metaphor and moved on to counting arrowheads. Then the drones started vanishing. August 2023. A research team from the University of Dar es Salaam deploys 12 camera traps to study lion prides. The units are military-grade, solar-charged, motion-triggered, capable of transmitting 4K footage in real time. 11 units perform flawlessly for 72 hours. Unit 7 records something else entirely. At 02:14 a.m., a bushbuck freezes mid-stride, ears flared. From screen left, a serpentine shadow, too thick, too fast, whips across frame. The bushbuck is simply gone. No struggle, no blood, no sound except the mechanical click of the shutter. The next frame shows only empty grass bending under an unseen weight. By the end of the month, livestock disappearances spike across 3 districts. Maasai herders report cattle dragged backward into thorn scrub, hooves carving parallel furrows that end abruptly. The carcasses are found hours later, bones polished to ivory, skulls crushed along the sagittal suture, as if the predator needed the marrow but despised the mess. One herder swears he heard a sound like wet canvas being torn, followed by the low, rhythmic clicking of something tasting the air. A Hadza hunter named only as the lead tracker crouches beside a fresh cow carcass at dawn. He is 34, wiry, a scar running from left cheekbone to jaw like a lightning bolt frozen mid-flash. He presses 2 fingers into a puncture wound. The holes are 6 inches apart, triangular, deeper than his knuckles. He looks up at the research assistant holding the camera. "This is not lion," he says in perfect Swahili. "Lion shakes the neck until it breaks. This one drinks." The valley begins to empty. Seasonal camps are abandoned mid-meal, cookfires still smoldering. Children who once played tag between acacia trunks now sleep inside the adults' huts. At night, the hyenas fall silent, as if even they understand the new hierarchy. The research team doubles the camera traps. They add audio recorders, seismic sensors, thermal drones. The data returns in fragments. A heat bloom the size of a pickup truck, gliding beneath the canopy, frame rate stuttering as the object vanishes between 2 images. A single audio clip captures 37 seconds of wind, then a low, wet clicking that syncs with the researcher's own heartbeat before the file corrupts. But if the valley was feeding something this large, why had no one ever seen it whole? Until the morning it chose one man. 4:12 a.m. His name is not important. The Hadza say names carry weight, and this story already carries too much. His hut is a simple dome of woven grass, open to the stars on one side. Temperature, 61 degrees Fahrenheit. Humidity, 88%. His wife and 2 children sleep in the adjacent shelter 6 meters away. A wildlife camera funded by a German NGO rolls at 60 frames per second, its infrared LEDs painting the interior in ghost green. The frame is still, a grass mat twitches, then the impossible begins. A coil, black, glossy, ridged like braided cable, slides over the threshold. It moves with no friction, no rustle of dry grass. A second coil follows, thicker, heavier. A third. The hut's grass roof sags inward, fibers creaking under weight that should not fit inside a space built for 3. The man wakes to pressure. Not pain, pressure. The coils have already encircled his torso, arms pinned to his sides. His first breath is a wheeze that fogs the lens. The microphone picks up a new sound. A low, wet clicking, like a crocodile clearing its throat, but deeper, resonant in the sternum, a sound that seems to come from inside his own chest. His right hand is free. He gropes across the sleeping mat, fingers closing around the iron fire poker left cooling beside last night's embers. "You will not take me quiet," he whispers in Hadza, voice raw but steady. He jams the poker's tip under the coil at his sternum and twists with everything he has. The creature hisses, an exhale like steam escaping a broken pipe. The coil loosens a fraction. He sucks air, lungs burning, then drives the poker downward, hunting the gap between scales. The tip finds purchase. A wet pop, then a raw, not reptilian, almost human, layered with harmonics no throat should produce. Hut explodes outward. Grass walls shred like paper. The creature rears. For 1.8 seconds the camera catches it whole, a head the size of a warthog, lidless amber eyes reflecting the infrared like twin moons, lower jaw unhinging to reveal a second, inner set of teeth rotating clockwise like a drill. The neck extends, vertebrae telescoping with audible clicks. The body keeps coming, 22 feet, 25, 30. It fills the clearing like a living rope forged from night itself. He rolls free, ribs screaming, grabs a burning branch from the fire pit. The creature recoils from the flame, tongue flicking out to taste the heat, then lunges. The branch snaps in half. Darkness swallows the frame. 12 seconds of chaos follow, children screaming in the adjacent hut, a wet slap of flesh on earth, his voice raw and commanding, "To the baobab, climb, do not look back." The audio cuts to static. He escaped with 3 broken ribs, a secret, and a single drop of black blood drying on the poker's tip. Where it bled, the Hadza would hunt. Dawn breaks rust-red over the valley. The tribe gathers beneath the sacred baobab, a tree older than their language, trunk hollowed by centuries into a cavern large enough for 20 people. His blood trails into the dust like a dark breadcrumb. The eldest woman, face etched like driftwood, speaks one word, Gurumai, the binding death, a ritual no living Hadza has performed, only whispered around dying fires. "Our grandfathers killed the last one with honey and fire," she says. "The new one is smarter. It learns our footfalls, it learns our fear." They waste no time on debate. Plan, lure, trap, burn. At noon, when the sun drives every living thing into shade, the youngest climbers ascend the sheer cliffs where wild bees guard hallucinogenic honey, sticky as tar, potent enough to fell an elephant. They smoke the hives with burning dung, harvest comms the size of war shields. Back on the ground, the men braid wait-a-bit thorn into nooses thick as anchor rope, each barb dipped in sap from the desert rose, poison that crystallizes in the blood. Beneath the baobab's roots they dig, a pit 10 feet deep, line it with dry grass and the rendered fat of a goat stolen from a distant Maasai boma. Children too small to lift spears smear honey on acacia trunks in a deliberate spiral that leads unerring to the pit. Warriors sharpen ironwood shafts, tip them with the same poison. The wounded hunter, ribs taped with strips of bark and rawhide, paints his chest with red ochre in the pattern of a coiled snake devouring its own tail, signaling to the ancestors that he volunteers as bait. 4:43 p.m., the sun hangs like a molten coin. A thermal drone borrowed from the research team hovers at 200 feet, feeding live imagery to a tablet held by the eldest woman. A heat signature appears on the ridge, the size of a land cruiser, moving against the wind. It follows the honey trail with mechanical precision, tongue flicking every 3 seconds, sampling the air. It reaches the pit, hesitates. The tongue touches a smear of honey, then retracts, as if the sweetness is a language it distrusts. Too easy. From inside the baobab's hollow the hunter whispers, "Now." A child no older than 8 drops a burning brand into the pit. The goat fat ignites with a whoosh, flames leaping 15 feet, heat shimmering the air. The creature surges backward, but the thorn nooses, toggled to ironwood stakes buried deep, snap tight around its midsection. Barbs sink home. Black blood hisses where it meets fire, smelling of copper and burnt sugar. It thrashes. The tail, thick as a man's torso, whips sideways, uproots a sapling, sends it cartwheeling into the brush. A spear flies true, embeds behind the jaw hinge. Another finds the soft spot beneath the skull. The creature rears, neck extending to impossible length, inner teeth spinning. The hunter leaps from the baobab's hollow, lands astride the coils, drives a flaming branch into the wound already weeping black. The fire catches, spreads along the scales like oil on water. A sound like canvas ripping in a storm, then silence. The creature collapses half into the pit, coils twitching in slowing spirals. The Hadza do not cheer. They watch the flames, faces lit orange, eyes reflecting something older than fear. Sunset bleeds across the sky. The carcass is too heavy to move whole. They section it with machetes, feed each piece to the fire. The smoke rises thick, smelling of copper, burnt honey, and something electric, like a storm that never arrives. By midnight only ash and a single scale remain, iridescent black-green, large enough to serve as a shield, too large for any museum case. The Tanzanian Wildlife Division arrives at first light, rangers in crisp khaki, faces pale beneath sunglasses. They photograph the pit, collect the scale, seal the valley with razor wire and warning signs in 3 languages. The Hadza are relocated to a camp near the lake, given blankets and maize flour. They accept the gifts, then vanish before the second night. Weeks pass, satellite thermal anomalies continue, smaller signatures moving in pairs. The research team's final report is classified. The drone footage is scrubbed. But every dusk the hunter climbs the baobab alone, ribs still bound in bark, ochre faded to rust. He listens to the valley breathing. And somewhere in the dark, the clicking answers fainter, farther, but patient, because the endad was never one. It was the smallest, and the valley is large enough for what comes next. Yaida Valley remains off limits. The wire rusts. The signs fade. Children born after the fire will learn new boundaries, new names for the dark. And on windless nights, when the stars themselves seem to dim, the clicking drifts across the lake like a lullaby no one asked to hear.